The Timberwolves finally got their power forward. Are we scared? The short answer is no. The long answer coming up right after this. What's up, everybody? Welcome on into PHNX Suns here on a Thursday. As Drew says, psychos and sickos unite because Gil, well, we kicked him out. He's gone. Just kidding. He is on a well-earned vacation, but of course, not on vacation. The freckled mamba behind the Mac making all of the magic happen. I've got Steven to my right. I am Eric, and we are taking an hour to just completely tear down the Minnesota Timberwolves today. Maybe. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Plus, we'll finish up that tier that was rudely interrupted by the breaking news yesterday. But, Steven, first things first, we have some Suns news to talk about. But how are you doing?
I have barely fathomed that it's Thursday. So,
what day did you think it is?
I thought it was like Wednesday. Honestly.
I mean, it's a big difference.
It's been a long week for you guys.
It's been a long week.
But I'm here, though. I'm here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think it's a fun one to look at a lens of the Western Conference through. And, yeah, we should have some fun with this. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited that you're here, Steve. It's like a throwback to like a year and a half-ish ago. So, yeah, we're going to have some fun. First things first, though, we got some news that we got to pass along. We'll start with Mat Ishbia. So Mat Ishbia was somewhere, I don't know where, UWM, some mortgage, whatever, and was basically saying, oh, you guys can ask me any question, whatever. Somebody, and honestly, credit to this person, I think very, very, very confidently says, can you trade Devin Booker to the Detroit Pistons? We don't have to spend a lot of time on this, Steven, because as Mat Ishbia has always said, he said, when I'm dead, Devin Booker will not be a Detroit Piston, and I don't care about the Detroit Pistons. It was nice to hear.
Well, I don't know what else you would have expected from, again, respect to the question, asking the quote-unquote hard questions. Maybe I should take notes. I don't know. But yeah, no, that's not happening. And he gave him the correct answer with the right type of tone to let it be known that this wasn't just a no for now. It's a no forever.
Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising. Something that was kind of surprising, though. Eddie Johnson announced earlier today. Eddie, of course, is the Suns color commentator, has been for a long time with Kevin Ray, that he's not stepping away, but he is cutting back his schedule to about 45 plus games, mostly home games. We'll continue to do a show on SiriusXM, so stay tuned for a new podcast, so some competition on the streets maybe. But just a salute to Eddie, man. Eddie is awesome, and the broadcast won't be the same without him. I'm excited to see what the Suns do, but he's been a staple here for a long time.
I mean, longer than his broadcast career is gone. He's been around for a long time, and he does a very good job at what he brings to a broadcast. There's a lot of former players that are in the broadcast hemisphere in some capacity. Few of them do their job as well as Eddie does in terms of having a feel for what the fan base is feeling at present moments regarding different topics of the team, being able to convey that, but also reach them in a way that's translatable for them to understand things in real time. And obviously, past all of that, the personality that is huge, and it really kind of it screams past the screen and the ears that it reaches. So shout out to Eddie. Hope everything's okay. We know he had some things going on last season. And we're looking forward to still having him around, even if it is a slightly lesser capacity.
Yeah, it's just going to be fun to continue to be able to listen to him. Hopefully we can continue to listen to him for a while. Big shout out to Eddie, though. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Suns do next. I don't know if they get some new blood in there. I don't know if it's Annie. Either way, I'm excited to see what they do. And I mean, Suns basketball is right around the corner. And also shout out to Eddie breaking his own news. I mean, who else but Eddie would break his own news? And then, of course, we aggregated it. Let's talk about, though, some other news that was broken. Steven, yesterday in the middle of our show, Shams Charania rudely tweeted,
as he usually does,
that the Minnesota Timberwolves will be signing Jonathan Kuminga. Now, we talked about it for like the last 15-ish minutes of yesterday's show. You seemed relatively positive about the move. I'm not going to say I'm not positive about it. I see why they would do it, but I don't think I'm as positive at it as you are. Mm-hmm. Now that it's been about 24 hours, where are you kind of settling in on what a Jonathan Kuminga addition to LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, McDaniels and company means?
I feel like I'm a little bit more positive on it because I was more positive about their construct before the move actually happened, just a little bit more positive than you and Gil were. I just don't think it takes them the wrong direction. What I do feel like, though, is that there are a lot of challenges with him still. Talked a lot about the catch and shoot stuff with him last season and buying into the role, not that he wants to play, but the role that this iteration of the Timberwolves is going to need from him to get the most out of the sum of the parts. We know that Kuminga can go do things off schedule at times. That'll be an added bonus for them in the playoffs, but can he buy into the maybe things that he might not want to do as much? Maybe he's a little bit more of a screener this season to bring smaller guys or less capable defenders to Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball before they're getting into their primary actions. Is he going to buy into doing that stuff consistently enough for the team to get the most out of all of the talent that they have? That's kind of where my question derives from with it, but I do think that his defense is something that they'll need to lean into more, switching and being able to just kind of guard your yard and flatten the team out, stay out of rotation a little bit more, funnel things to Rudy Gobert a little bit more predictably. If he can kind of buy into the defense, I think the offense and things like that will naturally come. Last part, though, that I thought about, too, the drives. One thing he does do is get downhill. So whether he's getting downhill off his own merits or if it's attacking the closeout from Ant or LaMelo, if he's getting paint touches and he's kicking it out to those guys, how much does that add to what they want to do in the half court?
Was he kicking it out? Right. I think it is a big question with Kuminga. I'll say this, just kind of big picture stuff here, but before we continue to talk about the basketball fit between them. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was the right move for the Timberwolves. Them and the Lakers were reportedly both trying to get Kuminga. Kuminga apparently forewent more years with more money at the Lakers to, again, have more control over his future, which I think is a different conversation if you're like Jonathan Kuminga's camp, because he turned down a $30 million per year extension from the Warriors in favor of more control, then went to the Hawks, then wanted more control, got the player option or the team option denied, and now he wants more control again. At some point, you should probably just take the money, but that's none of my business. Who else were they going to sign for a power forward? Because it was going to be a trade. I mean, we're talking about Kevin Love is a free agent power forward. We're talking like Isaiah Livers, and I like Isaiah Livers, but he wouldn't be starting. Kevin Love too, for them, I like Kevin Love too, but he shouldn't be starting for them. Like, seriously, we're talking about one of the Antetokounmpo brothers as far as power forwards go. There are still some decent guards out there, but Keshad Johnson is, again, one of the premier, quote-unquote, power forwards that's still out there. This was the only move for them to make, and I think kudos to them for making it. That being said, I'm not moved by this. Not that I think the Timberwolves are going to be bad or that I don't believe that their construct can work. I know that Gil and I are a little bit lower on it than you were, but I still see the vision of Ant and LaMelo together. If everything goes right, oh my God, that's awesome. With Rudy Gobert cleaning it up in the middle and Jaden McDaniels guarding on the perimeter. I mean, that's a great recipe. Now, the idea of Jonathan Kuminga, somebody that can go out there and get a bucket, somebody that can go out there and be super athletic, which is a different type of wing archetype than Jaden McDaniels, which isn't like that super plus athlete. It all makes sense. But then you start to look a little deeper, and this is where I think the flaws of Minnesota come in. And that's okay. Teams have flaws, but as the Suns are competing with them, they seem like relatively exploitable flaws, not just in how they play, but how they're built. LaMelo has not played a full healthy season besides last year. And his team, I don't want to say gave up on him. That might be too harsh, but they kind of did. Yeah, they got stuff back for him, but they did kind of give up on him after his best season. Jonathan Kuminga not only has had injury problems, but has had problems getting on the floor, problems being consistent, and has had multiple franchises say, we would rather just not retain you. Gobert is getting into his mid-30s. He's been healthy, but how long is a 7-footer really going to stay that healthy? And at that point, that's 3 of your starters there. If one of those things goes wrong, they have a massive problem that needs to be fixed, and I don't know if they have the facilities to fix it.
And I think that's where, one, they still, even amidst some of the moving pieces around their franchise the last couple of seasons, they do still have a heavy dose of continuity. Now, an underrated part, which I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out for them, Mike Nori is no longer in that locker room. They very much let it be known how valued he was, how impactful he was, how involved he was with everything that was these multiple conference finals runs that they've made over the last 3 seasons or so. He's just not there anymore. That might be the biggest hit. I know Julius and I know Nas are not there. I know DiVincenzo's not going to play this season. Mike Conley's not there. Nori might be the biggest hit to that continuity piece, but they still do have the McDaniels. They still do have, obviously, most important than anything, Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. They have a solid faction of, we've been through this before. We've seen what it looks like to be in the face of adversity, and we've overcome it multiple times to the tune of outperforming whatever expectations external people may have put upon us. So I think that kind of stubbornness in tandem with Chris Finch still being the one that's ultimately pulling the strings puts them in a position to integrate these other pieces, these varying levels of different pieces in a way that maybe is different from other situations. Those are red flags to keep in mind for sure. But I think that some of the things that if 1 or 2 of those things shakes out in the way that they hope it does might be enough to keep them in the top 3, top 4 of the West.
Oh, I think they could be top 3, top 4. Again, if LaMelo plays 65-plus games and Gobert stays healthy and Kuminga, like, here's the thing about Kuminga as well. To give him some grace and some leeway, it's like a Luke Kennard deal, right? We're not talking about somebody who just signed a max contract who's going to have max contract expectations, even though he might feel that way about himself. It's very clear that he's being signed to be the 5th best starter. But he is being signed to be a starter for the first time in his career. He's going to be that. Maybe this is the perfect combination for him as far as motivation goes. He has a clear defined role on a good team, but he does not have long-term stability. He does not have a long-term contract, and he doesn't have a lot of money relative to NBA standards. So
emphasize that part.
So maybe, just maybe, this is the most focused Jonathan Kuminga that you're going to get. And we've talked about Kuminga over and over and over again because he has been, whether it's been legit reporting or, of course, fan reporting or wishing, that he has been loosely tied to the Suns quite a bit, especially before they traded for Miles Bridges and before they traded for a power forward. I think you could argue that while the ceiling got higher because they added a power forward, I would also maybe argue their floor got lower simply because if Kuminga doesn't work out, if Kuminga gets to the point where he can't start or another franchise wants to give up on him or he's injured again and only plays 30, 40 games and he's not healthy for the playoffs, or it doesn't click in the way that it needs to click, they have nothing else at that position. Nothing. Yohan Beringer, people talk about him all the time. That guy's a center. Am I wrong? Like, he's not somebody that can play next to Gobert.
He's a center that can play the 4.
But he can't shoot.
Depending on who the 5 he's next to.
Naz Reid?
Yeah.
Like, he can play next to Naz Reid?
It's a different game, to your point.
But not next to Gobert. So if Kuminga fails, it has this, like, cascading effect, I think, more so than somebody like, again, we take a similar salary of Luke Kennard. If Luke Kennard doesn't work out for the Suns have plenty of other options and alternatives to be fine. If Kuminga doesn't work out for the Wolves, even though he's a lower contract, he's a very high importance. And that, if I was a Wolves fan, would concern me.
It would. But I think they have baked in, because they were able to get Kuminga in the manner in which, just by way of free agency, I think they give themselves not necessarily just a stopgap, because I don't want to make sure I'm framing it like that, but they give themselves someone to start. But I think the wild card for them, similar to like we just got done speaking about with the Nuggets, that move that you made doesn't move you off the aprons. You're still firmly there. So for them, in their context, they have Josh Green. And I don't see him sticking around on their roster. If they did not have Ayo Dosunmu, who they just signed after trading for him at last trade deadline, might be having a different conversation, but I feel like they serve a very similar purpose. I'm of the frame of mind that they're going to be shopping at some point Josh Green to see who is interested, what they could potentially get back in return for Josh Green, And hopefully maybe that comes to them in the form of someone that can play somewhere between the 3.5 to 4 position, similar to Kuminga.
I mean, look, man, I was hearing that and I was like, okay, but like, what does Josh Green make? Like $8 million, $4 million? He makes $14 million.
Yeah, he's a solid contract.
That is a big chunk of change. Now, they do also have No, they don't have the draft picks. They gave up the draft picks for LaMelo, right? So you're really just trading that. So you have to find somebody who's willing to take on $14 million of a guy in Josh Green who could be a rotation player, but is certainly not a $14 million per year player in exchange for what? Like a backup caliber power forward? Sure. Who is that? Who is that makes the money work? Because you also cannot aggregate because they are, like you said, in that apron. Yep. So it has to be a 1-for-1. I'd repeat the apron rules here, but Suns fans are more than well aware of all the apron rules and what there is. So if we're taking this by percentages, Steven, before we take a zoom out and we look at the West as a whole, a couple other transactions here and there with some maybe play-in potential teams and where the Wolves stand among the West. If let's just set a baseline, is 50%, how much better did the Wolves get? Did they go to like 75%? Like Kuminga gives them a 25% boost? Is this like a 5% boost? How much better did they get?
I would give them like 15.
15%? I mean, that's not nothing, man. That's a big chunk.
I think it's because most of it comes because they just didn't have someone at that position before he came through.
It's fair.
So just addressing a position where you just didn't have someone to man those minutes, I think that just automatically gives you that boost for me. But I think there's some variance within what that ultimate 15% capacity could be. Until
I see it, it's a 5% boost, which could be a couple games, which could be the difference between the 4th seed and the 6th seed. Yeah. But, STB says too much overlap. There is this thing about Kuminga plays the power forward position, but wants to operate in a lot of the same spaces that Anthony Edwards operates in, especially in that mid-range. But who do they just get rid of?
Julius Randle.
Who operates in what?
In the mid-range.
Funny enough, Steven, the first show that you and I ever did together was a random emergency podcast where my microphone was barely working at home for the Cat Randle trade. And both of us were like, it's not going to work because there's this like overlap. And I'd say we've been pleasantly surprised, not pleasantly, I guess surprised, of how well that has worked for them. They made multiple conference finals. Last year was the first year they'd make the conference finals in 3 years. That's a really successful run, much more successful than I thought, but it was clear that archetype didn't really work. Kuminga's not the same type of player as Randle, but like he's worse and he does operate in similar spaces. So how much better does that really make you? I guess it's the LaMelo factor that might bump that up.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I really want to focus more on if we're talking about Minnesota, because it's going to be their top end guys, how well they mesh, how quickly they do so. And to your overarching point, how healthy will they be in tandem with one another? I think they can make Kuminga fit and be the better version of himself if he buys in, but he can't buy in unless those two guys are absolutely in lockstep with one another, both on the health side as well as just the approach to the game for them.
Yeah, it is going to come down. It might be lazy, but like it kind of always comes down to health, doesn't it?
It's not lazy because I think it's more true in their situation than other instances.
Well, also, again, Ant did not end the season healthy, and runner's knee is not exactly something that I feel like goes away for somebody who plays like the way Anthony Edwards does. It feels like less so than Denver, there's like this clock that's ticking. Because if Ant suffers an injury, if LaMelo suffers an injury, if one thing goes wrong for the Timberwolves, I don't feel like I felt before where they had this depth to overcome it. Because they don't have Dante, they don't have Randle, they don't have Reed. And maybe that wasn't a championship caliber roster, but I feel like the floor was higher. But let's talk about that Western Conference. Did this move vault the Timberwolves up to possibly a top 3, top 4 seed? Are there other teams that might be contending, and why? Are the Suns still in a great position to take advantage of it all? We'll talk about it after our first break. Look, nobody can guarantee the outcome of a legal case. However, the husband-wife law team, well, they're proud to make you plenty of guarantees, because not only do they have hundreds of years of combined trial experience, but Mark and Alexis Breyer, well, they care about their clients, which is why they make them all sorts of guarantees. Like you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason. A guarantee that you're going to receive at least as much in your pocket as they receive for their fees, even if they have to reduce their attorney's fee to do so. And a guarantee that you may speak with one of their lawyers as often as you choose about anything that you need to discuss. And don't worry, they're always going to be upfront and honest with you. They're not just going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear. They're going to tell you the strengths and the weakness of your claim so that you can make informed decisions. So if you've had a serious injury, make the informed decision first. Call the Husband Wife Law Team at 602-783-8841 or visit their website and the link in our show notes and tell them that PHNX sent you. One more time, 602-783-8841. Call the Husband and Wife Law Team. Look, it is football season, which means it's also fantasy football season, and you might be looking for a place to do your fantasy football draft. Well, look no further than where we will be doing ours on September 3rd. You could also be at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You can get the Cardinals PHNX Die Hard Draft Kit, which brings you a reserved space at the BetMGM Sportsbook, food and beverage options, plus, of course, a custom draft board, player stickers, commissioner crown, championship ribbon, draft day Sharpie, and more. And if you want to stay at Gila and live it up at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, guests can use Cards FF for a 25% discount on rooms. Enjoy wall-to-wall screens, an exciting draft day atmosphere, and everything you need to kick off the fantasy football season. Mention Die Hard at booking for 10% off the PHNX Cardinals Die Hard Draft Kit package. You must be 21 plus to participate. Visit playathela.com or stop by the BetMGM Sportsbook at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass, Vequiva, or Santan Mountain to book your fantasy football draft party today. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us here on a Thursday, including AE Wolves, who says Suns are trash, by the way. Thanks, man. We appreciate you being here in the Suns show as a Timberwolves fan.
I raised you one Colin Gillespie game winner. And
Ooh.
Checkmate.
Yeah, and let's not bring up the playoffs in the last time that we played because that didn't happen. It doesn't count.
Oh,
okay.
we talking about when the Mayans were around. We talking about last season, man.
All righty. Look, the Timberwolves will kind of wrap up the Kuminga thing. How do you feel about the Timberwolves? We asked the chat. Signing Jonathan Kuminga. The options were solid margin move, doesn't change anything. I'm scared, and makes Wolves worse. Makes Wolves worse is 7%. I'm scared is 19%, so obviously the big margins out there. And then solid margin move gets to 37%, so if people feel okay about this, and then doesn't change anything, gets at 37%. I would say it doesn't move me, but it does change things, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But if they're able to find a power forward to trade for, whether it's like, Obi Toppin makes $15 million, I don't think Indiana would agree to that. I don't know if you have any other names of players that you would look at that would say, hey, maybe we could trade Josh Green and his $14 million for. Also, they couldn't do that because Obi makes more than Josh Green. For sure. And the apron restrictions. I don't know if you have any players, but unless they do that.
Jalen Smith comes to mind from the Bulls. Now there's a big difference in contract, and Jalen Smith is expiring, so there would have to be probably a third team getting involved, or some very nuanced navigating of the cap between those two teams to, I feel like, get the Bulls to want to dance with you on that. Another name another team I'm keeping in mind is the Houston Rockets. So they're in need of some guard play. They're in need of some things in the guard/wing room. If things don't shake out the way that they want, and they want to maybe find a way to bring someone in that's a little different than what they have, maybe they look at Tari and say, hey, man, Tari, we appreciate
Tari just got an extension, right?
Tari did just get an extension, so it wouldn't be able to happen until probably closer to the new year.
But maybe
for him.
It's not working out that well for him.
There's just throwing names out there. That's almost the end of where I can see just some potential partners to dance with there at this present moment. But I don't
mind like the Wendell Carter shout. Yeah, if that could be like a power forward for him. He makes 18 though, and you can't aggregate, so I don't really know how.
Yeah, it's tough. It gets tough. So I think probably just in wait and see mode with Josh Green, knowing that he's not going to hurt your team. You obviously have a need for that type of guy without having DiVincenzo. But I do think down the line there will be some teams that ultimately, maybe by way of injury or just by things not shaking out the way that they want, could find themselves potentially interested. So, Drew, we are on the same page. We mentioned Mr. Wendell Carter Jr.
Makes too much money. And again, I'm literally getting PTSD to the Suns' second apron restriction stuff. It really makes it hard to trade. Leon, though, says, good show, fellas, as always. Happy, blessed Thursday. Have a blessed and wonderful day. A blessed and wonderful day. Everyone go Suns. We appreciate you, Leon. The Western Conference, Steven, it's different. There's been a lot of changes. We can agree the top two, Sacramento, and I'm just kidding, OKC and San Antonio. Then there's this next tier. Let's call them the playoff teams. Denver was a playoff team, Houston was a playoff team, Lakers were a playoff team, and Minnesota was a playoff team, not a play-in team, out of those 4.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that group of 4 got stronger collectively or weaker collectively?
It has to be weaker. When you look at each one of their situations, you look at what they had last season and what's happening at this present moment, it's got to be weaker. I think comprehensively for that 4-team faction that you mentioned. What you think?
Definitely weaker. I mean, Houston, I think, is the only one out of those 4 that I feel pretty confident that they'll be better. Again, assuming good health from Van Fleet, I think that's going to help them a lot. AE Wolves obviously says the Wolves are the 3rd best team in the West. Do you see a world where the Wolves are the 3rd best team in the West?
I do. I think I might be outlandishly true or outlandishly positive about my thoughts on Ant and LaMelo for how they can just work off of each other, the attention that each garners, what we've seen work in different situations without each other and what that might look like when one is off the ball. Can you make those same type of decisions with having hefty consequences to pay? I can see it work. I genuinely can, and if their defense gets to the level that I imagine it can with adding Kuminga and what I assume they'll shift to even more so in terms of their defensive approach. Yesterday we talked about them switching a little bit more in 23-24, a little bit more in 24-25, and then significantly more in 25-26. Kuminga helps them do that more viably. Maybe they look a little bit more like the Spurs defensively last season. I can see it with them, but it has to actualize, and I do think their ceiling is probably number 3 in the West.
Here's the reason why I can see them as number 3 in the West. We have a lot of people in the chat saying, like, get off drugs for AE Wolves in the chat. I can see them being the 3rd team in the West because I could see a lot of teams being the 3rd best team in the West. I could see Houston being the 3rd best team in the West. I could see Denver being the 3rd best team in the West. I could see Phoenix being the 3rd best team in the West. I could see Minnesota being the 3rd best team in the West. I even think that you can squint and you can see Portland. If somehow they find a way to put it all together, they can. Not because they're going to separate themselves from the kind of conglomerate of teams in the middle of the Western Conference, but more so because those teams are going to be separated by like a razor margin. And if you have a 1-5 game winning streak, like Denver last year ended the season on a 12-game winning streak, and that's why they ended up as the 3rd seed instead of like the 5th seed. Now, obviously, a 12-game winning streak is crazy, but you go on a little winning streak there, and you could see them going up there. Now, Portland, I feel the least likely about. I think that is going to be in a different tier. I think Portland will more likely be a play-in team, but I wouldn't consider the Wolves the best shot at being the 3rd seed. I would say that Houston has a better shot at being the 3rd seed than them. I think that the Nuggets, even with all of their question marks, they do have the best player in the world, or at worst, the 2nd best player in the world. I think over a regular season, that type of guy who does stay healthy is going to help you, even though last year was the first year he had some sort of injury, anything. I think they could be more likely to be a 3rd seed. And I don't even know about the Lakers, man. Do you think the Lakers or the Wolves would be more likely to end up in that 3rd seed?
Give me Minnesota.
Okay.
I think Minnesota. For context, 2 days ago, ESPN had their summer forecast of conference champs and finals predictions that came out. Looking at the Western Conference, and this is just based off a points system that they put together on who will win the Western Conference finals. Oklahoma City was 1st. San Antonio was 2nd. Minnesota was 3rd. Tied for 4th were Denver and Houston, and number 6 was the Los Angeles Lakers. To fill the void we have on the show, there is a world in which I can see the Western Conference top 6 shaking out like that, with the Suns potentially being in that 7th spot, flirting with 6, flirting with being tied for 4th with Denver and Houston, as we just spoke to in that order. But I think that Minnesota has a punch-up ability for me, just in prospect of looking at their roster and what they can do on both sides of the ball. I very much can see them being in that number 3 spot next season. But I do think the Suns are going to have a lot to say about those other 3 teams underneath that top 3.
At the end of the day, I don't think this changes much for the Suns. Really, it's something to keep an eye on. Kuminga is certainly somebody that could pop. That's always been part of the appeal of a guy like Jonathan Kuminga. Personally, though, I still feel like the Suns have just as good of a chance to beat them, simply because I can't bet on Kuminga to actually be a factor for them. I think the Suns still have as good a chance as anybody to be the 3rd seed in the West next year. I think they have as good a chance as anybody to be a playoff team next year. This doesn't move me. This doesn't change anything. I do think it's intriguing, but at the end of the day, the Suns also made moves. I still think that when you break things down, the Suns are the team that I think did get better without making the biggest risk. If the Timberwolves got better, there's a huge risk associated with it. If the Lakers got better, there's a huge risk associated with it. Those are the only other 2 teams up there. Even, I guess, Portland, there's a huge risk if they get better too by trading for Ja. The Suns made a minor risk, traded for Miles Bridges, and traded some good role players, but did not do anything to upset the actual balance at the top of their roster. And I think they got better. That's a nice, stable combination for them.
It is, and I think that's something that they can weaponize, and that should help them get out to a fast start. It should help them kind of fortify and establish and take a next step on the identity and the culture that they established in that foundational season last year. I think there's a lot, to your point, that's in favor of the Suns by their own doing, and they're pulling up strings and pressing up buttons and navigating their cap situation with the fine-tooth comb that they did. There's internal development that's on their side. It feels like they check off multiple boxes. They didn't have the best bit of health last season. That's something that we can never predict, but I can't imagine it gets worse for them on that front. Knock on wood, touch metal, all of that stuff. But I do think that outside of the things that are in the Suns directly in their control, those externals of teams that were ahead of you in the standings last season, taking even marginal steps back, it just keeps that door that was already open for you last season. And if you handle your business a little bit better, you outright just finish with a better record than a few of those teams. That door that was just a little bit open and you could see the light through it, just now it got that much more open. Now it's just about what are you doing with the opportunity that's presenting yourself.
Couple more things to round out just as Western Conference.
Question for you real quick.
Go ahead.
And this can probably end up being a show topic at some point. Are you more worried about the Suns being able to catch up with the teams that finished ahead of them last season, or the teams that were in that same realm or potentially behind them creeping up on them this season? So we're talking about creeping up teams. We're like talking about Utah, Portland,
technically.
Yeah.
I mean, Clippers and the
Clippers
Warriors
are in that conversation for sure.
But the thing is, the Clippers are in flux. I can't imagine they get that much better. The Warriors, they signed George Niang, who, by the way, Charles Lee gets a lot of hate from me for being one of my Summer League ops. George Niang is also on that list. Very, very rude to me at Summer League. I'm not super moved by Niang. I think he'll hit an annoying 3 or 2 over the regular season, probably against the Suns.
He'll definitely set an annoying screen.
Yeah, he's best. He's basically like their Quentin Post replacement-ish, because they did lose Post to the Grizzlies, but I'm not too moved by that. I think Utah is definitely concerning. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of young pieces in there as well. Dallas is interesting. Portland's. I would say I'm still more concerned about the teams ahead of the Suns because the Suns still have to prove it themselves that they can make that leap up. But it's like 3 to 10 in the Western Conference is so close to each other that I could see really anybody. If you told me Utah was a playoff team this year, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So I'd say more worried about who's ahead, though.
Okay. I tend to agree with that, but I will say I have sneaky suspicions about the Los Angeles Clippers. They just have good players. If you just take a look at their roster, what guys have done recently, Darius Garland stays healthy. They have good players, and obviously the coaching side we don't have to speak on. That's a team that I have very sneaky suspicions about in a positive capacity. That could be one of those teams that's like, hey man, Suns are in 6. They're a half game ahead of the Clippers, with 7 games left in the regular season. Like they might be 2 games behind a team that's ahead of them, and they can have a chance of catching up with them. But it might be a situation where it's like, hey, it's play-in or are you the 6th seed and the Clippers are on your heels type thing.
Yeah, they did lose Benedict Mathurin though, who signed with the Pelicans. Could the last thing here before we hit a break and go back to our tier from yesterday? Could the Pelicans be good this year? Could they be like a play-in? I mean, think about how they played. It's a stretch, but how they played at the end of last season. If DeJounte, Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Benedict Mathurin, like Fears, Queen taking a step up in their second year. I mean, Ease Missy. Like they got guys.
They do. You forgot about my guy Markovich though. Of all
Carlo
the people
Makovic?
of all the
Mr.
people you
360?
mentioned, how you forget about my mans?
That's my man's.
Hey, I'm the one that put a fake bet on him though.
You did, yeah, you did. That was honestly crazy. That
wasn't even a part of that bet that didn't hit. But anyway,
I don't think the Pelicans are going to be good. But it's just like you take a look at the very end of this conference. Like Sacramento's clearly not going to be good. The Pelicans end of the season playing really well, and like DeJounte is a good player. Zion is a good player. Like, you know, Trey Murphy III is probably the best player on that team right now. Mm-hmm. Those are decently talented guys. Mm-hmm. But like TGT says, they're just guys. Well, let's get to tiering guys. Yesterday, we were so rudely interrupted by Shams Charania. We'll resume our tier all based around Devin Booker, and we'll do it on the other side of our second break. Pure edibles are purely perfect because Pure is a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks, which are their version of Starburst chews, and hard candies. And while they taste delicious, they're not just gummies covered in sugar that tastes like weed. Let's focus on how they make you feel, because that's where Pure really separates themselves from the crowd. Pure's effects are clearly listed on each tin, so you know exactly what effects to expect. You want to be sleepy, you want to be uplifted, you want to be balanced, you want to be relaxed. Well, they blend unique cannabinoids such as CBN, CBG, CBD, along with marijuana-derived THC to give you the exact effects that you are expecting. No more guessing when it comes to your edibles. They taste delicious. They make you feel delicious. That's every single box checked with Pure edibles. Plus, Pure gummies are designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable or easy to dial in your exact dose. Go find yourself some Pure edibles products from one of the over 150 dispensaries across Arizona, now including True Leave. And we talk about the Window Depot quite a bit. They have factory direct prices, which means that their prices can't be beat. But they said, you know what? Here's some more discounts for you. 20% off all special order custom cabinets until September 30th. It just proves that the Window Depot is way more than just a window store. We're talking windows, iron doors, cabinets, countertops, vanities, flooring, everything in between. Whatever you need, from a big update to a small refresh to a multi-home build to maybe you're just building something small. You can get all of it over at the Window Depot. Plus, they've got 8 Arizona locations where you can stop in, compare options, and see products in person. Plus, talk through your project with the team, or you can go online as well. So remodel that kitchen, replace those windows, do whatever you need to do to make your home the best it could be. Visit thewindowdepot.com to start planning on your next project today. Before you renovate, investigate. Shop the Window Depot first. Let Window Depot help find you the right products for your home and your budget. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and get back to our tier yesterday, the conversation around the Phoenix Suns world has been Devin Booker, some people believe, is only good at one thing, and that is scoring. So what we're doing is we are going through and we are tiering superstars and stars around the league as far as they are better at both, better at passing, or better at scoring than Devin Booker, or if they're worse at both. I'm not going to go over... Actually, I'll do a little rapid fire for people on audio. Real quick, better at both the very top, you have Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic, and better scorer, you have Shea, Giannis, KD, Ant, Curry, and Maxey. Then you have the Devin Booker tier, which includes Devin Booker and Jason Tatum. Mm-hmm. You have the better playmaker tier, which is Harden, Cade, and LeBron. And then you have the worst at both tier, which is Jalen Brown and Jamal Murray. We ended with Donovan Mitchell. Mm-hmm. Did we decide that he was going in better scorer?
I said yes. Well, as I was, and funny that you mentioned it, it was around this time where we were rudely interrupted as well by Shams. But I was saying the separator for Devin with a guy like Donovan Mitchell, as well as guys like Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Maxey, is the pull-up three. Mm-hmm. If he can find, or not find, because he's shown to have had it before, if he can reestablish that as a pillar in his game that he can dictate to a defense with and really put his fingerprint on the game from, I think he puts himself in that list of guys that's just above him right now. I think that's the true only hole in his game, by my personal feel, that's leaving him from what I feel is maximizing how great he truly is. That being said, Donovan Mitchell, the scoring barrages was where we left off. We were talking about the playoff prolific scoring moments that he's had the last 4 or 5 seasons. He has that pull-up three. I think that's a separator when we're talking about the scoring part.
That's fair. We could put him up there. There are some comments in here saying Tyrese Maxey a better scorer than Devin Booker? No way. Do we put Tyrese down to the worst at both?
We can put Tyrese because he's the newest face there. So that's
we
fine.
can put him down to worst.
I
want to fill up that bottom.
By the way,
tier.
the guys in each tier are not exactly ranked on who's the best
player.
Because if it was, KD would be the best scorer, LeBron would be the best passer there, and obviously Tatum would be ahead of Devin just for the fact that he's won a championship and done things like that.
But you can't put Jason Tatum ahead of Devin Booker in the Devin Booker tier.
Exactly, because that's not how that works.
All right. This next guy is somebody that I had a lot of conversations about with Knicks people last year, Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
I think you put him as a better scorer than Devin Booker. I think you have to. I mean, you saw him do it at literally the highest level to power to a championship. I do not think that he is a better playmaker.
That game, was it game 7?
He was good. And he's a good passer, for sure. Good passer. Not a better passer, not a better playmaker than Devin Booker.
No.
But I'm fine putting him in the better scorer category.
Yeah, he's a better scorer.
I'm cool with that. He's really, really good.
By the way, I am looking forward to quote-unquote redemption scoring season from Devin where he, like, y'all forgot about me.
It does feel like
he's primed for one of those.
He could definitely, I would say he can outscore
almost everybody
on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Luka, Jokic will be tough. Shea will be tough. Giannis will be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I think he could outscore KD, Ant, Steph, Mitchell, and Brunson all next year.
Mm-hmm.
And like Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey and Jamal Murray all outscored Devin Booker last year, but they haven't done it for as consistently as he has at 25 plus points per game.
Sure.
This next guy, though, didn't play last year. We got a couple of guys who didn't play last year that we're still going to be tiering.
Mm-hmm.
Trae Young.
Obviously, Devin's not a better passer than Trae.
Correct.
Devin has a significantly deeper bag of skills to put the ball in the basket than Trae does. That's not to undermine or underrate what Trae has offensively as a scorer, but he's a little bit more predictable in how he goes about scoring than Devin Booker is. So you can put Trae in better playmaker tier.
I'm fine. I mean, he led the league in assists. Like he led the league in assists. He's been double-digit assists. He's one of the few guys,
very underrated.
One of the few guys in this league that I think I would still consider like a table-setting point guard.
Yeah, I mean, if someone said that they think Trae Young is the best passer that's not named Nikola Jokic in the league, you wouldn't hear me bat an eye at it at all. I firmly still feel like he's the best point guard in the league.
He's definitely a better playmaker. He's not a better scorer, though. So we'll put him in better playmaker in there. All right, Ja Morant. Worst of both. He's a really good playmaker.
He has some.
He's a really good passer.
Kind of what Gil was saying with Donovan Mitchell. He has some high highs.
With the passing?
It's been a minute on both sides, honestly. We've seen him have some scoring outbursts that are like, hey, man, you're doing this every night, but the every night is not it for him. So I don't think for that reason you can't say he's a better scorer than Devin Booker is.
The better playmaker, though, I think at this point you have to say worse at both. Personally, I think Ja's playmaking has certainly reached high highs. We talked about it helping Devin Booker if he were to be paired with Devin Booker for sure, but Ja barely plays. And like the playmaking is flashy and he gets the assist, but as far as like orchestrating a high level offense, Devin Booker has done that more often than Ja Morant over the last couple of years.
Will him playing with Denny and playing with Damian Lillard either help or hurt him as a scorer or a playmaker?
Don't forget Drew and Scoot.
Of course. Yes. How could I forget? But I feel like that could make him, honestly, there's a conversation that he could be a better playmaker this upcoming season.
For sure. Yeah. I think if he had an argument to be better at book than one thing, it would be playmaking.
While we're on the topic of Portland, I feel like the ball would be in Ja's hands a lot. I think they're going to look to relish Damian's off the ball. Now, splitting him and Denny, who we'll get to a little later, is something that I'm very curious what that looks like. But I think if Ja has the ball in his hands more and he's got those shooters spaced around him, to your point, Aryton, that might be something that uplifts his playmaking because there's a lot of talent there. There's some overlap, but there's a lot of talent there in Portland.
Are you okay with putting him in worse than both? I feel like you're hesitating.
I feel like Ja's a better playmaker.
You think so?
I think he's just naturally a better playmaker.
He to me, fills the role of more of the traditional point guard playmaking for sure. And that's certainly something. Like he did average 8 assists last year, but that was over 20 games. Over his career, he averages 7.4 points or 7.4 assists per game. That's higher than Devin Booker's career high. So we could put him in the better playmaker category. but I think it's close.
It's the same as Jason Tatum and
and as we go through this, like there are a lot of players who are better at a specific thing than Devin Booker. Nobody here is saying that Devin Booker is a top 5 player in the NBA, but we are almost all the way through this list, and there are 2 players who are better at balancing both, and that's Jokic and Luka. Like that's a very short list of guys. So again, this is painting the picture of you can talk about this objectively, which is what we're doing, and there's very few that can balance the way that Devin Booker does. Yep. Talk about Darius Garland. I think he's in the better playmaker category. I think he's a step below Trey, a step below Cade, a step below Harden, but he's right there. I think he's a better playmaker than Ja at this point in his career. He's a very good orchestrator and passer.
Yes, he's honestly underrated on that front. I think it's the scoring and the quick twitch shiftiness that he has to when he has the ball in his hands really kind of takes away some of the attention from his playmaking. But I do think he is a better playmaker.
He is somebody, though, like, again, I know we can't just go off of raw assists per game the same way we can't go over raw points per game, because then this would be a very different list. It'd be very, like, objective instead of subjective, right? I don't know.
I'll follow you.
He's never gone over 7 assists per game in his career. 6.4, 6.9, 6.7, 6.5. Oh, never mind. He did have it back in 22-23 and 21-22. But that is a while ago. As far as like playmaking over the last couple of years, Devin Booker has had a higher assist output. But I'm cool with putting him in better playmaker. That's really what he gets his stay in the league from. You know, it's interesting. We talk about guys who are better at both. This is a sneaky conversation to have about better than both with LaMelo Ball. And let's go ahead and have that conversation on the other side of our final break. Powerball, the pick. Pick 3. You know them. You love them. They're Arizona Lottery's draw game, but now they're better than ever. Draw games got an upgrade with more prizes, more drawings, and more ways to win. Now the Powerball jackpot still starts at just a meagerly, lowly $20 million, and it keeps growing until someone wins. But now there are even more ways to play. Double play, which is a second drawing using your same numbers, and power play, a chance to multiply your prize. Either way, you can add these on to your Powerball ticket for only $1 each. And don't forget,
I
already used the one that you gave me. But look, don't forget about the pick. Now with Pick Plus, a new instant game with cash prizes and the newest draw game in the Arizona Lottery lineup, exclusive to Arizona, which is Pick 4. Play your favorite draw game today, starting at just $1. We'll talk about that dollar afterwards. At more than 3,600 retailers across the state, find a place to play near you at ArizonaLottery.com. Arizona Lottery, love to play if you're over the age of 21. Now you can get Arizona Lottery tickets over at Circle K, and we tell you all the time about how amazing Circle K is. Whether it's the snacks, whether it's the drinks, whether it's the gas, Circle K is your go-to spot, and we always constantly tell you about the Inner Circle. But meet the new Inner Circle 2.0, where every visit counts. Earn visits on qualifying purchases, minimum of $3 in store or 5 gallons at the pump, and trade in visits for rewards up to $1 off per gallon. You can also complete challenges, and other rewards include lower gas discounts, plus free food and drinks, and other in-store merchandise. The new Inner Circle 2.0 is a brand new way to save. Enter your phone number at checkout or at the pump to ensure each visit is counted. New enrollees can still save 25 cents off per gallon on the first 5 fill-ups, so of course, download that Circle K app today. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here as we are tiering players up against Devin Booker as both a playmaker and a scorer. Is LaMelo one of the few that at least has to be a conversation about being better at both?
Yeah, he can be in the conversation. I do think that Devin is a better scorer and LaMelo is a better passer. But I do think it is a close conversation.
Devin's a much more efficient scorer, much more calm, steady, consistent, efficient scorer than LaMelo. LaMelo's highs are crazy. The like 45-foot pull-up threes and all that. One-legged threes, crazy off-balance shots. And like Book can hit some of that. He can get in his bag, but he's just much more like stable and sturdy. So we could put him in the better playmaker tier, which is starting to fill up. That one was pretty empty for a while. This next one's interesting, man. Where would you put Denny Avdia?
I I think Denny's playmaking is something that really stepped onto the scene last year. But for you few sickos out there that were watching Washington Wizards basketball,
he was doing
over the
it.
last 4 seasons prior to last year, Denny was doing things, and it suggested someone that was very much in need of a much, much bigger role and better talent surrounding to complement and supplement those skills. But it burst onto the scene, resulting in an all-star campaign for him. I still can't firmly say he's a better playmaker than Devin. I think they're in the same realm for sure. And obviously Devin's done it at a more mainstream level more frequently. But Denny is a very good playmaker, and he very much counterpunches with this game. You know he wants to get to the paint. You think he can help, he'll engage it, kick it out to the shooter, give him an accurate pass to play off of. I put him right behind Jason Tatum. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, you put him in the Devin Booker tier? I put him in the worst of both tier. Here's why.
I think Denny is really good.
I think Denny's really good too. Mm-hmm. But here's why I'm not ready to say better than both, because this does take in account the last couple of years. Now, obviously, Denny dropped 40 on the Suns.
If we're doing the last couple, then he's worse.
But it's but here's the thing is you gotta you look at last season, you've got to look at last year so far in his career was an anomaly. Now, he has a lot of opportunity to continue to prove it, for sure. But we moved Tyrese down to the worst of both tier. He went from 17 points per game to 24 points per game. That's a huge jump. Still less than Devin Booker in a down year. So clearly the scoring part of it is not a question, right? That's not even. Devin Booker has been a better scorer than Denny Avdia. They just do it in different ways.
Very different ways.
And Denny, of course, played better than Book in the play-in game, but we're not talking about one game here. The assists per game jumped up from 3.9, which is the year before, which was a career high, to 6.7 assists per game.
And it could have easily been 9 to 10 if he had some teammates that could make it 3.
You could say the same thing, not about the three-pointer, but the same thing about Devin Booker, where he's had plenty of seasons, including this most recent one, where he could have been up to 7, 8, 9 assists per game.
For sure.
I don't think he's clearly a better playmaker, and I don't think he's clearly a better scorer. I think we have some really good players and worse at both. I think you could argue that right now, Jalen Brown and Tyrese Maxey, there are some people who believe that they are just outright better players than Devin Booker. And there are people who believe that about Denny. I think that Denny is worse at playmaking and scoring than Devin Booker right now. It's not a fluke, and if he does this for another year and he outscores Book and he gets the same amount of assists per game, then he can certainly be in that conversation. But he's kind of on that Maxey tier for me. I would have him in worse at both.
Aryton, what are your thoughts on this one? Very curious.
I said it in the chat because I was afraid to say it out loud, but I feel gross that I think that he is a better scorer this upcoming season. But after consulting the chat, of course, Don had said too that he's only done it once. He needs to prove that it wasn't a fluke. I think that's where I'm at too. I think we need just one more season of what Denny did last year to prove that he's in the conversation to be over Devin Booker.
I mean, the thing about scoring, right, is that we talk about how great of a scorer he is, and he was a great scorer last year. Still averaged a full point per game less than Book. Or maybe 2. Was Book at 26 last year? Yeah, Book was at 26 last year. So he averaged 2 less points per game than Devin Booker and a career high 7 point per game jump. You've got to do it at a higher level. Devin Booker's been averaging 25 plus points per game for a decade now, right? It's just different. Book was top 10 scoring in the league last year. Let me see what Denny was real quick, because it obviously wasn't 10. Denny was 14th, so not the biggest drop off in the world, but enough to go from top 10 to barely top 15. So I think he's worse at both.
My issue is that if Denny's worse at both, I feel like there should be more of a conversation with Ja and Darius Garland to be worse at both as well.
I think Ja and Garland are better playmakers than Denny, though. I feel pretty confident about that.
But then with Booker, though, I don't think it's as easy as a conversation as it is with Denny.
The thing is, with Denny's career high in assists per game, and again, I'm just using this as a baseline. Obviously, there's more to it than just that. But Denny's career high in assists per game is 6.7. Ja averages over 7 for his career. Garland's a little bit different. Garland's averaging almost 7, a little under 7 for his career. He's gotten up to 8 at one point, but that's for a long time. Denny went from 4 to 6.7, and that's great. And there's playmaking off of your advantages. Giannis playmakes off of his advantages. We talked about that a ton. versus somebody who's going out there and like legit just setting the table, passing, playmaking, setting up an offense. Denny falls more in the Giannis category for me of somebody who's just so brutal at getting to the paint, using his advantages, scoring, and then playmaking off of that versus somebody that just goes out there with the intention of playmaking and setting up an offense, if that makes sense, like a guard. That's where I kind of see the separator between Ja, Garland, and Denny.
So there's a little bit of the Giannis to that. Which I was getting ready to get to, maybe not bringing up Giannis in particular, but both in potential assists and kick-out passes last season. So last season, potential assists, Denny Avdija was number 7 with 886 potential assists. There were only 6 other players that had more potential assists than he did. Jokic, Cade, Jalen Johnson, Jamal Murray, James Harden, and Josh Giddey. All names that are on this list of players that we're talking about today. When we get to kick-out assist opportunities and all of that stuff, Denny had 888 kick-out passes in the regular season last year. That clears everybody by far. So when you talk about playing off of your advantages, when your advantage is getting downhill to the extent that he could, and you actually have a complementary skill to go with that, I think that's leveraging your skill set, no different than Devin leveraging two to the ball and pick and roll.
Let's put him in the Devin Booker tier. Let's put him in the Booker tier. I'm fine with that.
But I'm not mad at the people that say they want to see it for another season. I will mention that too. Also, will say caution you. Don't be surprised if Denny averages 8 assists with Damian Lillard around.
Sure, he might. He might. Tyrese Halliburton, clearly better playmaker. I don't think he's a better scorer than Devin Booker. Cool. We're good with that?
Yep.
Sweet. Jalen Johnson, worse at both. Cool? Come on. Come on, bro.
Johnson's
he's good, but come on.
He's an underrated playmaker.
He's a great playmaker. He's not better than... He's worse than... He has to
do it more.
I mean,
so yes.
He was 7.9 assists per game last year.
Come on, man.
Yeah, he was 7.9 assists per game last year.
You don't get Nickeil Alexander-Walker's breakout season without everything that Jalen Johnson was. I'm just saying. But I'm not mad. It was to a lesser extent. Can we put him in the Devin Booker tier? It was to a lesser extent than Denny, so I'm not mad.
But I mean, he had statistically a better season than Denny. 22, 10, and 7.9.
Yeah.
Top 5 in assists per game.
Denny impacted winning a little bit.
Yeah. Do we want to put him? We can put him in the Devin Booker tier. If we're gonna put Denny, they're both a small sample size. Sure. They both only played a couple of seasons, and they had one really, really good year.
Sure.
Scotty?
Yeah, Scotty is a worse scorer than Devin.
For sure.
I
love that we have 4 guys in the Devin Booker tier.
And they all play the same position. They're all point forwards.
Yeah, except for Book.
I'm saying, excluding Book.
I can't put Scotty at better either. Obviously, he makes his bread in completely other categories. Dude,
Scotty
nope, I can't do it. He's a good playmaker, but I can't do it. 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 I can't. He's a great playmaker for his position. I can't do it.
Because you don't like the way he play makes.
I can't do it.
You don't like the way he play makes.
I can't do it. I can't. We have to draw a line. Look at the better playmaker tier. Guard, brawn, guard.
I just got done talking about the point forwards.
No.
Nah, you crazy now.
I get it, but he makes his bread and butter in all the other things, right? He's great at those things, but like his defensive versatility is really what separates him into being a superstar in this league. He's not better at either of those things than Devin Booker right now.
I didn't say he was better.
Okay, good.
I just said
he's underrated. That's fine. You were just telling me not to put him in worse than both.
Yes.
Giddey's a better passer. I'm cool with that.
Josh Giddey's a better passer.
Cool with that.
I think I also acknowledge that flashy passing floods people's perception on how good of passers guys are.
Sure.
But I will leave it at that.
But I think Giddey is still a very good passer.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he's not as good as some of his highlights, he's still somebody who had 10 assists per game, which is pretty damn good. Paolo's worse at both. We talk about scoring. Yeah, he can get to the cup, but his efficiency is awful.
He's worse at both.
He's worse
Growing
at both.
as a playmaker, I will say to keep an eye on that this season for sure. Growing as a player too, yeah, for sure.
All right. Stephon Castle.
He's worse at both.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure his name got mentioned because his playmaking is something that really got San Antonio to where their season ultimately ended, and he's going to be better this season. That was only year 2 of Stephon Castle.
I'm very interested to see where you go with Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
At his peak,
yeah,
better scorer for sure. Really great playmaker at his peak. Where do you put him now at this point in his career?
Can't firmly say now because we haven't seen him hoop post Achilles, which I hope he's fully healthy. I'm looking forward to a healthy Dame season. But I do think for the track record that precedes him as a scorer and where he left off at, we have to put him in a better scorer category. I think Devin is a better playmaker.
Okay. Dame's a really good playmaker. He's just been solid.
Very good.
Over 7 assists per game since 2019, 2020.
Hasn't been playing in the best context offensively either.
No, he
to suggest that he's put up the numbers that he has.
For sure. Really great score, but last 2 years in Milwaukee, obviously it's Milwaukee Dame, which is also just strange to think about. 24.9 points per game, 24.3 points per game, but before that, 32 points per game. Season before that, only played 29 games, had 24. So out of respect, we could put him in the better scorer category. But that is probably the most likely guy in that category for Book to surpass this year, given the role that Dame's going to be playing and kind of where he is at in his career. So here's how we break things down with all of these players. We've tiered almost 30 players here. We have only 2 players in the entire National Basketball Association who are better at combining scoring and playmaking than Devin Booker. Kind of crazy when you think about it. In better score, we have Shea, Giannis, KD, Ant, Curry, Mitchell, Brunson, Dame. Feel good about that tier. Anybody that you think should be moved up to better at both?
Shea intrigues me a lot.
Shea intrigues me a lot too. I'm not going to lie. We're getting the nod from Freckle Mamba.
Bump him up.
We could, look, he's very good. Anybody else? I'm good with that. I think Giannis is close, but again, from the forward position, it's just a little bit different.
I think for the role Jalen Brunson has to play for his team, he has to lean into his scoring qualities more than maybe he's naturally built to do, which just makes that championship run last season that much more remarkable. I'm going to leave him there in better score, but I do think that he could be in the better at both categories.
I think he's on the verge. Honestly, I think Giannis, Brunson, and low key, maybe the next guy is Tatum as far as the better at both. But I still think that it's close enough that it's not as severe as the first three.
This season is going to be the biggest challenge for Tatum as far as if he's better at both roles.
Especially the playmaking side.
Because he's had other guys he could lean. And not saying it's a negative to count against him, but he's had other guys to lean on.
The Devin Booker tier, which is 4 players, by the way. Booker, Tatum, Denny, and Jalen Johnson. Big years for all 4 of them in very, very different parts of their career in very different ways. Those are 4 guys who kind of have to go out there and prove a lot at this year. Better playmaker, we have Harden, Cade, Braun, Trey, Ja, Garland, LaMelo, Tyrese, and Giddey. I feel fine about that.
For me.
And then worse at both, lots of great players. Make an all-star team out of these players. Tyrese, Maxey, Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, Scotty Barnes, Paolo Banchero, Stephon Castle. I feel good about that too.
Yeah. I like that we moved Shea up. That was one that I was definitely going to get back to.
By the way, that was a Gil special. That was a Gil special. Just so everybody knows, that was a Gil special.
Throw him under the bus
I'm not lying. Am I lying?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong. Because I feel like I had some reservations in the conversation.
That was a Gil special, but it was it was prime book propaganda, so I wasn't gonna say no. But yeah, Shea's up there
for sure.
I think at the end of the day, Steven, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like we can say that Devin Booker's a pretty good basketball player.
Yes, I will add to that we're pretty good at this podcasting thing because no one's having thorough conversations about it in the ways in which we are, bringing context of not just Devin, but 29 other players across the NBA in multiple different respects, doing it this way, having a thorough conversation, being able to be transparent and not have our Suns-colored lenses, word to Espo, on while having said conversations.
I'm a very biased man, but I can put that to the side to talk ball.
Somebody say you are Southwest bias.
That's just my hashtag Southwest bias. Look, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us here. Tomorrow, we've got a really fun show planned for you all. Hope you all come join us on Friday. I know that it's the dead period of the NBA season, but you still get your hoop talk here. You're not really getting it 5 days a week from anybody else at this point, at this level in the offseason. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure the like button. Big time film study coming out today after the show, Steven.
Part 1. Looking at Oso and Colin, the many different ways they go about navigating their handoff actions. More to come on that front, so stay tuned. But yes, you can enjoy part 1 in the short term.
And if you missed it, we did talk to Colin Gillespie himself in studio on Tuesday. Definitely continue to go back and check that episode out. And just to tease it, over the weekend, we will have an additional audio-only mailbag that will be coming out. We had a ton of mailbag questions for Monday's show. Didn't have enough time to get to all of them, so we'll be getting to the rest of your mailbag questions. If they didn't get answered, we will read those off and answer them, Steven and I, over the weekend, so keep your eyes out for that. Follow the show at PHNX_Suns. You can follow the Freckled Mamba at Freckled Mamba, making all the magic happen behind the Mac. You follow Steven at StevenPG3. That's Steven with a PH. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.